A top political leader is scrambling to escape. His shirt is torn, he's wearing a makeshift cricket helmet, pushing his way through a violent, hostile crowd in the town of Sonapur. The people chasing him are loud and organized. Over the chaos, the defining sound is a localized roar of chor chor, thief, thief. But hours later, the scene shifts from a chaotic street to a sterile private hospital in Kolkata. There, the state's chief minister is caught on camera publicly berating the hospital's CEO, warning him that God will not excuse his actions. What began as a routine political visit to the families of post-poll violence victims had suddenly spiraled into a statewide spectacle involving street clashes, emergency wards, and direct threats from the highest office in the state. We are left looking at two wildly different realities. We now have to figure out if this was a coordinated, lethal assassination attempt against a political heir or a manufactured medical crisis designed to cover up genuine, spontaneous public anger. The ruling Trinamool Congress immediately framed the barrage of stones and eggs in Sonapur as a premeditated, lethal strike organized by their political rivals, the BJP. At the center of this storm is Abhishek Banerjee. He isn't a rank-and-file politician. As the nephew of the chief minister, he serves as the powerful second-in-command and the widely recognized heir apparent to the ruling party. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee laid out a grim medical picture for her nephew. She claimed he had suffered blood clots in his chest, that attackers had tried to permanently blind him, and that only his makeshift helmet had kept him alive. To explain why private hospitals were hesitating to admit him, the ruling party introduced a secondary theory. They alleged that political opponents were using police and administrative channels to actively block medical facilities from providing care. Top party lieutenants quickly amplified this story. They pointed to the lack of a security detail on the ground, framing the event as a catastrophic breakdown of law and order that left their leader entirely unprotected. This entire narrative relies on positioning the heir apparent as the survivor of an assassination plot, one so severe it demanded immediate intensive medical intervention. But the official medical bulletins released by the private hospitals told a completely different story, directly contradicting the chief minister's dire claims. This chart breaks down the stark divide between the political rhetoric and the clinical findings. While the left side shows extreme claims of fatal organ damage, the right reveals attending doctors classified injuries as strictly superficial. The medical conclusion was definitive. The patient was fully conscious, required zero admission, and was prescribed a digestive tablet. The medical establishment's refusal to validate the party's narrative is what triggered Mamata Banerjee's furious public outburst at the hospital administration. Armed with these medical certificates, the opposition BJP quickly crafted their counter-narrative. They reframed the attack not as a conspiracy, but as spontaneous public anger and political karma catching up with the ruling elite. The steep contrast between the clinical data and the heated political rhetoric points to a deliberate attempt to weaponize healthcare institutions in order to manufacture political sympathy. With the hospitals refusing to admit him on medical grounds, Abhishek Banerjee was eventually taken home for private treatment, bypassing the system that wouldn't corroborate his injuries. Mamata Banerjee's recorded threats to the CEO represent a direct application of state power. This was a specific attempt to pressure a medical professional into letting political requirements override clinical observations. This friction is playing out in the heart of Kolkata, a city where political authority has long been absolute. Yet on the outskirts of the city, that sense of total control is showing signs of strain. The heckling in Sonapur is a specific instance of local residents losing their deference for the party's second-in-command. It suggests that even the heir apparent can no longer assume a safe reception everywhere in the state. The clash in the hospital ICU pitted the grassroots anger seen in Sonapur against the top-down administrative pressure of the state government. The true source of the chief minister's anger was not medical negligence, but the hospital's commitment to objective medical science over political convenience. Physical violence has often defined the state's regional politics, but this incident highlights a different risk. By demanding the hospital ignore its own medical findings, the state leadership attempted to overwrite objective science, threatening the very neutrality that makes these institutions credible.